The original Gungrave was pretty mashy. It was going for a style over substance kind of thing to give you something nice to look at as these bullets zip past and things just explode all around you. But hey, it did that pretty well. It's just your thumb was tapped out by the end. I did like its art direction and it had some character too.
I have to beat Grave. I've sold my soul for this body, for one more chance to try. Regret can do terrible things to a man.
But yeah, I never would have expected a little PS2 shooter to get a few follow-ups about 2 decades later. And when starting up G.O.R.E for myself, I was honestly sold by the intro alone. Still has this look, and it still has character. So let's check it out. But first, this is combat overview. In this series, I go over the general controls, to the game's main mechanics, who or what we use those tools on, and then seeing how it all comes together. Bit more in depth, but that's what we do. So Gungrave is an action shooter that's this explosive virtual shooting gallery going from room to room, firing at anything and everything that moves. And doesn't move. Okay, so R2 will fire a weapon, and this time it'll be 4 bullets each press, so it's more rhythmic compared to just mashing to shoot each and every individual shot like before. You can press down on the D-pad to switch to auto fire. Thank goodness. There's also a pretty strong auto aim here, so just slightly hovering near something will take over from there. Now if you stand completely still and just fire away, burst mode will start. Hunkering down and hyper focus your shots on a single enemy. It does way more damage than basic shots, but the trade-off is you becoming an easy target. There's a powerful shot by holding R2. This has a few levels of charge to it the longer it's held, and this will do more damage and break shields. It doesn't work while auto fire mode is on, but it's cool to do some kind of swap fire stand to use it real quick. And we have a leash grab on R1. You can pull enemies in, you can use them as a shield if you want, you can slam them into the ground for some crowd control, or a quick one tap to finish them off, or even toss them. And holding R1 will send you flying towards them instead. Good way to escape a crowded area or to get around faster. Onto defenses. Square has you do this dive like we could before, lets you avoid being hit and can even shoot while doing this. There's no perfect dodge and diving doesn't cancel attacks, but it has solid enough iframes. Overall it's okay, but it gets the job done. Circle will have you swing your coffin. This melee attack is good to fight off up close enemies that need to be swatted away, and these coffin attacks actually reflect missiles and projectiles back to sender. Now circle with a direction this time will do a little combo. This will break enemy shields as well and reflect too. But this has some routes to it. You can drop kick sending enemies flying, pull out a bladed chainsaw thing to really land some multi-hits on anyone still standing. Onto the HUD, this red segmented bar on top is your direct health. Blue is shield and works kinda like Halo. It regenerates when not harmed in a while and protects your main health. Then underneath that is the demolition gauge. It adds up when you land attacks, and when the bar is filled you'll get a stock demolition point, kinda like Sengoku 3 for example. Now with these demo points we can cash one in to do a skill or a special. So holding L2 and face button can toss out any one of the skills you equipped yourself. These actually heal your main health based off the skill's cost. So if it costs 1 pip, then it will heal 1 segment. If it's 2, then 2 segments. Now for the sad truth, new skills are not worth buying. I went through half the game with the starting skill and only bought a new one just for variety's sake. And just went on to beat the game with only using the starter skill. But yeah, the one we start with is great up close and from afar. It lands every time, so guaranteed heals. And it's cheap, so leaves demo points for using Fury. Speaking of that, Fury mode. You'll go into this powered up state at the cost of 1 stock, which increases damage while it's active. This is leagues better than any skill you can buy, and if there is better ones, they're just way more expensive. And it just melts bosses when mixed with burst mode too. There's a similar attack called Storm Barrage that's unlocked once reaching a combo of 50, having you mash triangle to dish out an onslaught of bullets all around you. This spreads damage over multiple enemies while burst singles out just the one target. And because of that, I never really use this one, especially since enemies have a large pool of health anyways. And yeah, about enemy health, when you do enough damage, they'll be stunned for a bit and opened up for a glory kill. This doesn't heal, but it restores a portion of your shield only. Yeah, there is an upgrade system, which is nice, but none of it is really needed. Like I said, the skill you start off with is all you need. The melee follow-ups are interesting, but enemies don't really react to them differently, and enemies don't really have you use more options, so just stay away and fire. I recommend doing what I did and just upgrade bullet damage and nothing else until that's completely maxed out. Got that around the halfway point, and then work on health or extra fury uptime or adding more slots for meter, just whatever. Enemies are, well, they're all jobbers. They'll go to their spot and wait there and just focus you. There are ninjas who rush you down and deflect most bullets you shoot at them before you break through. Rocket launchers and turrets that shoot missiles at you, but yeah, there's a small handful more, but it doesn't matter too much. You approach them all the same, and it's whether or not to use fury right now or heal with the skills. If not, just continue strafing till your health or shield is getting a bit low. Bosses are just okay. You'll start a fury and just slowly strafe as you far away, as usual. And that's Gungrave G.O.R.E. It started out on a pretty good high note, and then it starts to fall from here and never picks up. The thing that got me so early on was the fact they kept the best bits of the original and ironed out some of the not so fun parts, like not having to mash for 2 hours straight just to get to the game. I like the extra meters going on, having some kind of decision making to push your advantage with the fury, or hold on to resources for an escape option with specials to crowd control or heal. And then the glory kill restores shield, having you pick and choose if it's worth the risk going in or not. And especially keeping the deflection too, having some way to keep their attacks and close enemies in check. On paper, it looks like a little more involved action shooter with all these new additions. Because of that, those first few hours are pretty enjoyable, messing around with these huge jumps over the original. But they add nothing new afterwards, or they don't have you learn or adapt to certain layouts or enemy types, so it just makes this runtime feel like a drag. At least the original is this compact 2-hour playthrough, gets you in and out before that moment hits you. But G.O.R.E goes on and on for 8 hours, and enemies you fight become even more spongy, and all your problems are solved by strafing while holding fire with occasional deflect to break things up. The stages are okay. I did like the Doom reference tossed in there, but that's the only standout encounter. And I did like playing as different characters on those rare occasions. Honestly, if they cut out a third of the levels with Grave and added 2 or 3 more stages for the side characters, I think it'll make it feel less repetitive. But even though Grave's rival is pretty identical, it's still cool to see some kind of new model on screen. But Quartz, the girl, was different. Her projectiles weren't as strong, but her melee attacks were her go-to thing. Even had a perfect dodge counter attack thing going on. Yeah, that was a nice change of pace, but it was just a one-time play with her, and that's it. But yeah, G.O.R.E kind of just outstays its welcome a little bit, but it's a lot better than I expected. And it does stay on track with what Gungrave started 20 years ago with a stylish art direction, showing off over-the-top firefights that aimed for visual flash to a fault. So yeah, it's still Gungrave. And because of that, if you want to relive some PS2 AA action game glory, this isn't too bad to try it out then. Just know what you're getting yourself into.